Good morning, hobby friends. Welcome to Hobby Hotline. This is episode 330 of Hobby Hotline. I'm your host, Logan Ward, and with me today is the rookie card specialist, Victor Roman Sr. How you doing, Victor?
I'm doing good. Good morning, guys. More importantly, good morning to the chat.
Yep. And the man who needs no introduction, the Han Solo of the hobby, Uncle Rich Klein. How's it going, Uncle Rich?
Hello, chat. It's all good. It's a beautiful Saturday morning here in DFW. We're supposed to be like in the 70s all week, which is in February. One of the reasons I have never moved back to New Jersey. I'm not a big fan of winter in February.
Yeah, it's going to be 60s here. I remember a few years ago, I was it was like this. It was very warm, and I went out on my mountain bike. I was mountain biking. I came home and I had a tick on me in February. That's unheard of. But anyway, it's crazy.
So Kim with a great comment. The last 48 hours have been a hell of a year in the hobby. You know, there's a saying: sometimes a week is a year, and sometimes a year is a week. These 48 hours is a year.
Yes, it's been crazy, and we're going to talk about it here in a minute. But I do want to give a shout out to Rex and crew at the Sports Card Shop. I'm sure we're on the big screens right now, so that's cool. But really, before we get started, I do want to say that we want to send our thoughts and prayers to the family and friends who have lost loved ones in the tragic aviation accident in Washington. That's very sad.
And don't forget the accident in Philadelphia last night too.
I have not heard about that.
Yeah, there was a plane, I guess a medical plane that crashed into a neighborhood in Philadelphia.
Oh no!
So we've had back-to-back days of that. So,
well, you know, they say these things come in threes. So I don't even want to think about it.
Hey, John, I'm proud of the fact that I still have enough hair to have an Earl Morrall cut at my age. In Bo Spencer Thompson's 1 Million Cubs chat, we were talking about Earl Morrall this morning because Bo was mentioning how Bob Greasy doesn't sell. So we mentioned Earl Morrall was the quarterback for the Dolphins during most of their undefeated season. And then I said, if you want a great career history, go to his career. He had some ups and downs that are amazing. He may have even had a better flat top haircut than John Unitas, which is pretty amazing.
You know, when I was a kid, I had a flat top. There's some pictures of me with a flat top. I'll have to dig those out one day and scare everybody.
We should all host one day with our childhood photos.
Oh yeah, just have the photos up there. Yeah, that would be hilarious. So yeah, looking at the chat, there's a lot of good mornings here. Good morning from Dean. Hodges 455. He gave a video like. Yeah, everyone hit that like button. And see, Stevens, he's going to be in Maryville today, Victor. So
that's about 15 minutes away from me, maybe 20 minutes away from me. I'm wondering, is there a card show or something out there that I missed, or you're going out there for other reasons?
Who knows? 1 Million Cubs Project. There's Bo. Good morning, Bo. All right, so I think we're kind of caught up on the chat. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about this subject. That's actually the big elephant in the room, so to speak. It's backyard breaks. There were some crude comments about future minors, a daughter that this breaker has yet to have. They were pretty disparaging comments. It's really set the hobby on fire. Me personally, I don't condone this kind of behavior, because, you've got little kids that are very impressionable that are watching these backyard breaks guys because they have a lot of antics and they have a lot of shtick and things like that. And they're popular, and when they say things like this, that's it's not good. So Victor, I'm going to go to you first. What are your thoughts? Just, starting out.
Yeah, man, I hate to regurgitate what everybody else has been saying, but it's kind of a bummer, right? It's just one heck of a way to start off 2025, and I'm looking at it a couple of ways. One is what I keep hearing, kind of like the term degenerate, right? And I always often looked at that word as kind of a like in spite of that sort of thing. But when I looked up the word, I'm a nerd and I like to look up words. I do that kind of thing. But the word degenerate is a decay of morality. Okay, we're kind of really diving into a dark subject that really has no place in a break, in my opinion. And then on the other side of things, what I don't hear a lot of people talking about is the heart of the matter. What is at the root of all of this? And there's an old Bible verse that says, "Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks," and that's the kind of thing that I feel we're dealing with. Is what is coming out is what's truly inside of the heart of that person, and unfortunately, it's unfortunate, but that's kind of where we're at. Now, the bigger question, in my opinion, is what are they going to do about it? And it doesn't seem like so far we're 48, 72 hours into this thing. And I haven't heard of a corporate decision that has been made yet.
No, I have not heard anything from Whatnot. From what I understand, Backyard Breaks is by far their most popular channel. I assume it makes the most money for them. It's making me wonder, is this going to be a deal where it's money over morals?
Right. And one other thing that I'd like to add is a lot of times, like, I can understand somebody saying something stupid. I mean, it happens to me. It happens to all of us. I've said things that I instantly regretted saying, but it wasn't like a one handoff comment. It like that topic of conversation just kept going and going and going. And it's like, okay, now we've crossed the line. And that's what needs to be dealt with. There needs to be consequences for this type of behavior.
Yep, I totally agree. Rich, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to attack this from a totally different point of view. And I'm not going to talk about the comments. But the whole thing with Backyard Breaks is I think they try to stretch things as far as they can, if not further. At a recent Dallas card show, they were actually set up with a breaking table or whatever in the main room. And they came to the young lady, happy. And by the way, she announced on Facebook, she and her husband have just celebrated their 33rd anniversary. So Jerica's a very sweet lady. Ryan helps at the Dallas card show. He's a great grader for Dallas Card Show. So, I mean, they're both actively involved in the hobby. And I sit with Jerica because it's for an hour or two every show, because it's fun to see who the dealers come, how, what goes on at a show. And it still gives me, as a person who's promoted shows, some things. And these guys from Backyard Breaks sort of sauntered over and says, "Oh, by the way, we're leaving, at Saturday." And they were probably actually going to do something fun. And I was sitting there and I was trying to get them to the point, hey, we have a chance to go to a football game tomorrow that is really fun to, really special. We've never been able to go there. All you had to do is come up with an excuse like that to say, hey, I've got to go somewhere tomorrow but they were like, we're more important than the show. And that's the attitude I have the feeling Backyard Breaks has towards everything. And they have 60 employees, as noted. They're the biggest Whatnot breakers. And they've done a lot of stuff that is not great. But money and stuff trumps all. And that was an example of what they did at the Dallas Card Show, of their flouting rules. And the next day, the funniest thing is somebody took the table, no relation. Somebody came in, "Oh yeah, we got a table for you." And the setup was much more professional than the one they had the day before. And it was like, hey, take a look. This is a really professional, for a card show, this is a very nice setup. They had done a much better job than the BYB people had. And this is just the latest example of BYB not doing the right thing.
Yeah, you make a great point, Rich, in that I can even, look at it differently if this was their first offense. But there has been multiple strikes, right? And it's like strike 3, you're out. Isn't that when does it end here?
This might be strike 8.
Yeah.
It's like me with restaurants here in town. I'll go to them 3 times. If I've had a bad experience, once I get 3, I don't go anymore. I mean, how many strikes do these guys deserve? I mean, it's like what Rich said. It's like 8. I mean, I don't know. It's quite a bit.
And nobody's perfect, but they've been stretching the barriers far
Yeah.
more aggressively than most people in the hobby.
Yes.
And I think, as Kim just pointed out in the chat, how many of their supporters are more newer people to the hobby since, who came across since the pandemic and are part of we'll call it the new bros in the hobby instead of the more traditional hobbyists.
Probably the majority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably so. Back in the day, I used to collect Hot Wheels. And I had a lot of run-ins with Hot Wheel collectors. One actually pushed my son down when he was little to try to get to Hot Wheels. I actually had my safety threatened. Somebody threatened to come and burn my house down over Hot Wheels. So I used to think that I got to thinking the Hot Wheels hobby is like got some of the worst people in it. And and I was proud to be in the card collecting community. We didn't have things going on like that. We didn't have the pushing, the shoving, the people trying to outdo each other, the greed, that kind of thing. Then the pandemic hit, and now we have all those things. And honestly, I think the card collecting hobby has gotten worse than the Hot Wheels hobby. And to me, that's very sad. And
Logan, the funniest thing about this is when I started collecting, I would go through boxes at card shows, and it was hyper competitive 40 years ago. 45 years ago, it was hyper competitive. Everybody's trying to get the best things. Now, at least in the Dallas card show, when we go through the value boxes, we've talked about this on Dr. Beckett's podcast, Tim and I, there's everybody, I don't want to say we cooperate with each other, but there's no fighting. There's no thing. There's enough boxes. We just figure it out, and so there's a lot less of that in that realm than there was 45 years ago, but you're right. During the pandemic, there's this video somebody shot of all these people running at Walmart or Target when they just put out some new blaster boxes and basically scooping up everything and, almost as you said, pushing kids to the side or pushing adults to the side.
Oh yeah. There were, I heard reports of people putting trackers on people's cars, the AirPads or AirPods. I forget what they were doing, but they were doing all kinds of crazy things. So, going back to Backyard Breaks, what kind of message does this send to young kids, and also what kind of message does this send to people trying to enter the hobby? I mean, to me, it's a very bad message, and it's one that I don't think we can overlook. I think there needs to be something done about this. I mean, they've crossed the line. I mean, I get it. You can have some bro shtick and say some lewd things. I get that, but this is a line that was crossed, and this is a line that should never, ever be crossed. And
I believe you and Victor have kids, correct?
Yes.
I only have nieces and nephews. I don't have any kids. The closest I came to having a kid is when I found out one day we were going to get temporary custody of my 5-year-old great nephew, and we had him for about 4 months while my wonderful niece was sorting out some issues. And I will tell you, being a parent to a 5-year-old, even for only 4 months, was the most tiring thing I think I'd ever done in my life. I will tell you, it was really tiring, and I was, and I was in better shape 6 years ago too. But if anybody had ever said anything like that in front of him, I probably would have hit him. I probably would have thrown the biggest punch I could have thrown, and that's where we're talking about.
Yeah. Hey, Logan, before we transition to the next topic, I want to give an update on my man cave project, but I'd love for you to show that whatnot policy that you showed me before the show.
Yeah, I was actually going to get to that.
Yeah.
Whatnot has a policy about, let me find it up here on the board. Whatnot has a policy about youth safety. And here it is. It says Whatnot has zero tolerance for any activity or interactions that endanger the safety and well-being of minors. This includes the following: Now I'm going to go down to the bottom bullet point, because that's the one that really applies here. It says any activity, comment, item, or display sexualizing minors or otherwise encouraging the physical abuse of a minor, whether real or fictional. So they apparently don't put up with that, but I'm wondering if they do. In my opinion, they should do something about this. But has anybody heard anything about Whatnot's statement? I've not heard a statement from them.
Nope, I haven't heard anything.
I really missed a lot of this. I don't live my life on the interwebs like some people, but I've heard about this, and it's, as I said, as Kin says, I rarely try to get off my even keel, but this throws me off.
Yeah, like I said, this is a line that should never be crossed, and they're I'm thinking that anybody that is associated with them, whether it's Whatnot or Tops or whoever, this may be a place where you need to cut ties. That's what I'm thinking. In my opinion. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
I think the chat's got the tone dead on, and I can't say I disagree with most of the comments in the chat.
Yeah, I'm a girl dad too. I have 4 daughters myself, and this kind of stuff just creeps me out. But there's also, I think, somebody made a comment, freedom of speech, and I agree with that. There is that. That's our constitutional right. But at the same time, our speech has consequences. And
Bo actually just said that better. Freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequences.
Correct. And that's where we're at, man.
That exactly. I live in Memphis. Okay, so we have a lot of crime here, and people do whatever they want because they don't fear the consequences, and I think that's something that's going on here. I think that's almost exactly what's going on here. These guys are going to do it. I think they know that there's probably not going to be, in my opinion, any consequences towards them at all, and they're going to keep on trucking. The hobby has a very short memory, unfortunately, and they allow people to do bad things, but then they welcome them back with open arms. I don't understand that. I've never understood that.
Logan, there's a saying on Net 54 time: stuff trumps all. Pardon the pun. But the whole key is, and I wrote I'm going to kind of quote a line I wrote on Sports Collectors Daily many years ago. If I went up the river for 10 years and I came back and I found 20 or 30 T231, the fan cards, of which I believe 3 or 4 are totally known, period. Edgar Walter Titan had one. John Ramirez owns one. I know Leon Lucky at one point owned one that got sold in his heritage type auction maybe 8-9 years ago. There may be one more that crawled into the world since then, but that's about it. If I found 20 of them, even if I went to jail for 10 years before finding them, you know what would happen? People would be saying, Rich, how much do you want for those cards?
Absolutely. They sure would. It's kind of how our hobby is rolling these days, and it's very, very sad to me. Like I said, I used to be really proud of it, and I'm not so proud of it anymore.
Logan, that's why I like playing in the world I play in, the dollar boxes, the quarter boxes. Can't really screw that up too much.
No, you really can't. That's you're having fun, you're enjoying the hobby, and I think that's what it's all about. For sure.
And I do buy an occasional Packer box. Heritage High Numbers is coming out. I will buy a box of Heritage High Numbers. I will buy a jumbo pack of Topps 1 on February 12th or 13th when it comes out. And that will be sufficient for the short term. So I actually get to play a little in the new card world, and then I'll go back to my quarter and dollar boxes.
Yeah, well, I do want to make one more comment about this. I'm not pro culture cancel, or you know what I mean, cancel culture. But but this to me, again, I keep saying this, but it just draws the line. This is a line you should never cross, and they've crossed it. And again, there needs to be, in my opinion, consequences for these actions.
They didn't cross it; they stormed past it.
Oh yeah, they stampeded right through it, didn't they? And I talk about cancel culture. It's that in itself. That's a whole nother story. But I'm going to say something here really quick. There was a NASCAR Truck Series driver that lost his sponsorship and his ride because of something his dad said like 30 years ago. That to me is absurd. But this is a whole different. This is a whole different story, and it's just I don't. It's hard for me to put this into words. My jaw dropped when I saw this. My son called me. He goes, "You're not going to believe what's going on," and I went and looked, and it's just like it's unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe somebody would ever go there.
Yeah, and of course, it's just the latest, as Ken says, it's the latest stupidity in the hobby, and we have a long running topic too that's not a stupidity topic, but has certainly brought out the conspiracy theorists in the world coming up.
Yes, we do. There's a lot of and I have to admit, I am somewhat of a conspiracy theorist. Every so often I wear the tinfoil hat. So all right. So before we get to that, I do want to talk about who you guys are rooting for on the Super Bowl.
Hold on. Well, yeah, okay. Can I start with that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
I like. It was earlier in the chat. I think it was John Keating who said he wants to send his condolences to the
let me see
Kansas City Chiefs in advance.
Yeah, here we go.
And that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty confident. And
he lives in Philly. He lives in the area. So
I understand. I get it.
His hometown team, folks.
and I'm on board. I am divided because I see that Philly, in my opinion, is the better team. But then I'm rooting for Philly. But at the same time, I cannot deny that having a three-peat would be pretty amazing for the sport, for the hobby. So that's my tug of war that I have to figure out before next Sunday.
And I have an absolutely beautiful niece, married, 2 kids in Kansas. She and her husband are both Chiefs fans. And the question is, should I want to say, okay, you're rooting for the Chiefs, so I have to root for the Chiefs? Or should I be the pain in the butt uncle and just say, I think I need to root for the Eagles to counterbalance what you're doing. It's, as Victor said, and correctly, there's something really nice about having a truly great team in the NFL. And I mean, Mahomes has played in and Kelsey and some other guys, they've played in 7 straight conference championship games. I mean, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
This is, Super Bowl number 4, I believe they're in.
Yeah.
That's a sign of a great team. And when you have a dynasty, you either a lot of times you become a love it or hate it team. And it's good for the hobby and it's good for the sport to have a team like that. But it's also good to see the Eagles, if they win, they won against the Patriots in 2018, I believe. And then if they win this year, they'll beat the 2 teams that are like the dynasties of their time. And so you have that counterbalance. Like, hey, I think outside of Kansas City and the other people who like Mr. Mahomes and Mr. Kelsey and Miss Swift and all those people, I think you're going to find most of the country is rooting for the Eagles, believe it or not.
Somebody told me at work, and maybe the chat can help me confirm this, but somebody told me at work yesterday that the NFL is going to start, starting next season, they're going to start reviewing all roughing the passer calls.
Well, that's going to be brought up. They can't actually do that until the rules are changed. I believe they can do that make that official during the rules meeting.
Yeah, that's topic number 1 and during the off season, I guess. This is going to be a big push for
this. Well, I mean, that's because the 2 penalties against the Titans were kind of shaky at best. I mean, there was one where the Titans hit each other more than they hit Mahomes. And Mahomes has also, on one of the plays he went out of bounds, kind of slowed down to try to, which is smart football, but it was an obvious ploy. They didn't call it, but when he was pushed, he was still in bounds. That was a totally legal push. And it's a good thing there was no roughing the passer called or no unsportsmanlike conduct called on that, because you would have said he was in bounds. That's allowed. And he wasn't sliding or anything. And it's the late slides. And I think, the NHL has a rule called flopping. I think the NBA even has a flopping rule. Looks like the NFL is going to join the flopping rule too.
Why would they implement such a rule?
There's a lot of flopping in soccer. I saw like a meme or something on Twitter. It was, I guess, last year or so. It showed, a guy getting, supposedly, he was flopping in soccer and he was like holding his ankle and things like that, and he wouldn't get up. And then it showed a cyclist who wrecked, and it was all bloody. His jersey and everything was all tore up, and he gets back on his bike and goes. So it was just funny. But as far as who I'm rooting for the Eagles. I'm an Alabama guy. My wife graduated from Alabama, so we're an Alabama family. So we do have that tie to the Eagles. So I'm rooting for the Eagles. But I did find something interesting on Twitter about who people are rooting for throughout the country, throughout the United States. And I'm going to show this really quick. It's like, okay, Missouri is for the Chiefs, Pennsylvania's for the Eagles, and everyone else wants to see a meteor strike.
I think I saw in the chat somebody mentioned how they want a sinkhole to just take the Superdome down with it.
But yeah, actually, my son, Tyler Sports Guy, he posted that, and I thought it was pretty funny. So pretty cool. All right, so I guess we can probably move on to our next subject. Let me get caught up on the chat real quick. Let me see if I can scroll back up.
Yeah, I'll give an update because I've had like 3 questions already asked in the chat. I don't want to make them feel like I'm ignoring them. So here's an update with the man cave being built. I started this project around Halloween time, October 30th, I think it was. I hired some contractors to help me do the remodel. The contractors came in, knocked it out, did their portion. I decided in an effort to save some money that I would tackle some of the work myself, especially on the finishing, like baseboards, molding, doors, that kind of thing. Well, then I ran into a structure issue with my doors, which I'll get into in a video, but that kind of delayed things. And then the holidays rolled around, and it was like, man, this is a really bad time to start this kind of project during the holidays. So that slowed things down. But I will be finishing up that project today. I have 2 bifold doors to hang, and I have the televisions to hang, and it's done. And then I'll be releasing a video. This will probably be the last Hobby Hotline where I am upstairs. I am very urgently wanting to get downstairs because this room is really, really bright. It's a sunroom, and right now I had to hang some makeshift curtains on the windows because it is like super bright in here this early in the morning. But yeah, we'll be heading downstairs real soon.
Yeah, because I was wondering about that when you got on earlier. It's like, wow, Victor's not in his normal place.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's cool.
And Victor, it was great hearing you discuss the word degenerate, because I love how you research things. I'll still tell the story of how when I mentioned Diogenes, you actually did a 10-minute video.
Oh, yeah. Well, you called me a Diogenes, and I didn't know. I'm like, what the heck did he just call me? Did he insult me, or did he?
There was no insult. That was a famous Greek person of the before the Common Era.
Yep.
All right, so I guess we can move on to the next topic. This has a lot. Again, this is what we were alluding to with the conspiracy theorists. It is the ongoing saga over the Paul Skeens debut patch card. Seems to be a lot of people are speculating that this 11-year-old kid doesn't exist, and this was all a ruse, by fanatics and things like that. I will say this, going back to our previous subject about about the comments from Backyard Breaks. If I had an 11-year-old kid and he pulled this card, I don't think I would want his picture all over the internet. So I can see that point. But what I would like to see is like maybe the dad coming out and say, "Hey, my son pulled this card and here it is. He's got it in his hand and all this," because we've never seen any kind of picture of anybody holding this card, being proud that they pulled it. I would, if I pulled that card, the world would know about it. They would know who I was. I would be extremely proud. I mean, maybe they want their privacy. I don't know. But again, there's a lot of strange things going on. And then there's these journal entries, which, a lot of people are thinking are fake. And of course, Fanatics is auctioning this card and people are going, that's a conflict of interest. So there's a lot of weird things going on surrounding this card. So Rich, what are you thinking?
One thing is, and I'm going to kind of tease, Dr. Beckett and I were taping some podcasts yesterday. And we were talking about 1992 football products and football companies. And a lot of them didn't survive more than, till 93 or 94. But there were a lot. 1992, the old joke in 92 was if you pay the NFL or the NFLPA $5,000, you can get a license.
Yeah.
But one of the companies that did their first product in 91 and then did a better job of it in 92 was NFL ProLine. And they had complete cooperation from the league. They would dress these people up in Zubas or other, league approved attire. The 91 boxes had like one autograph every 5 boxes. 92, I believe, was one per box. So Fanatics has taken what the NFL did in the early 90s and moved it to another level. They have done they've done what they promised to do when they first started in sports cards. We want to control the whole process. The debut patch is a great idea.
I agree with that. That's
a great idea. And whoever pulled the card, it's now going to be sold off Fanatics Collectibles. And the great conspiracy theory part of it is, did they orchestrate the whole thing up to and including finding some kid to write a journal entry?
That's what a lot of people are thinking out there.
James wrote in his history of baseball book. You can always tell when a story's a legend because everything's just too pat. Every part of it's believable, but when you look at it as a whole, is it really believable? And that's the reaction people are having to this. It's not that every part of the story is believable.
Yes.
But as a whole, is it really believable? And that's where the conspiracy theory stuff is coming from. Like, for example, did the kid really pull it on Christmas Day? I will tell you a story on that. Our local store, Triple Cards of Plano, is part of a consortium of stores where the owner owns a bunch of triple cards. He also owns some wax. He also is involved with Sappies and the Beast in this area. He's very, very considerate of wherever he places new stores. They had the first year they ever had the Secret Santa. They had a Secret Santa thing, and I drew somebody to give my things to who had actually given me donations in the past, and they always said, try to go above, the limit. If you feel like it. Well, he's given me donations. He's always given me good bracelets at shows when I buy from him. Heck yeah, I was willing to give his kid, who's a collector too and plays, above the price, the amount of money at the time. They took the box and there was a prize for opening. Like, if you got a card worth more than X dollars, you would get, an extra thing free. But they didn't open that box that night. They opened that box Christmas Day, and they got the case sit in, whether it was Pokemon or the Magic or whatever, that was well above the money. I said, if you'd opened it that night, you would have gotten another box. But they took the box home. So it is very plausible to have a box opened on Christmas Day. How many people open boxes on Christmas Day?
Well, I could say this. I bought some boxes for my son, some football boxes, and as soon as he opened them, unwrapped them, he busted them. That quick.
Yeah. But a lot of people do wait till Christmas Day. They'll wrap it up and they open it. And so every part of the story is believable, but as the whole, that's where people are looking into it.
Yeah. And then, there's people going, hey, this thing double dined with PSA. So, and a lot of people look at the autograph and they go, there's no way that can be a 10 autograph, because apparently people showed, they zoomed in and showed where it went into where the patch was. So, like I said, there's a lot of people that are, wearing the tinfoil hats. I wish Chris was on here to talk about the PSA side of it from when it hit the building. I would love to know some details about that, if he could even divulge any of that.
Well, Chris posted something about that on his Facebook page. I don't know how detailed it was, but he did post on his Facebook page when it came in. By the way, I'm subbing for Chris today.
Yeah.
We traded, by the way. He was originally supposed to be on today, so.
But me personally, I think it's a legit story. The only thing I want to see out of it is some real happy lottery ticket winner showing their face. Whether it be,
in Texas, there's a state law that you cannot protect your identity if you're a lottery winner. Yet, if I won a big lottery, I would probably not want it to be publicized.
No, I wouldn't.
And there's that element too.
Well, and the fact that the card was pulled during Christmas and we heard about it a month later, maybe they were smart, like what I've talked about in the past, where, okay, you pull something big or you hit the lottery or whatever, you go hire a lawyer, you go get an accountant, you go do all of these things first before you announce that you actually won or pulled this card or whatever. So maybe that's what they did.
And and there's all sorts of stuff. I saw somebody who posted, they did not, like Topps on January 3rd announced this card had not surfaced, but it was announced the next day. No, and remember, they didn't say pulled; they said surfaced.
Right.
That's also part of the conspiracy theory. Everything has become, we're great at conspiracy theories in this hobby.
Yeah. One thing,
and I'm not going to say it is or it isn't, but I want to say something. Give Fanatics credit. They have done a masterful marketing job with this. And they've also hit one of their mantras. They said, we want to control this whole process from making the card to selling the card. Well, guess what? Other than getting the card graded at PSA, because they don't have a grading company yet, they've controlled the whole process. That is actually well within the mantra of what Fanatics has announced they would do. So this is actually very consistent with what they've talked about in the past.
The only thing I throw a red flag on is, and I guess this was proven, that Fanatics was notified of this redemption on January 3rd. And they didn't release the announcement until January, 24th or 26th, somewhere in there. And so why was that? Why did that happen? So there's a lot of theories on why that happened. To me, that's the only part that kind of seems a little sketchy. I think, though, to agree with you, Rich, if you were, I like watching the show Shark Tank on occasion. But if you were to take that business model to the sharks and tell them that you're going to manufacture the card, distribute the card, you're going to get the card graded, and then you're going to get the card sold, the sharks would probably think that is a brilliant business plan. What we consider as conflict of interest may appear more like business genius. I don't think there's anything illegal because they own the licenses for everything. So they've kind of they are operating within the sphere of their authority, right? And so, yeah, the optics, right? We kind of don't like it. We don't, but as far as them doing something illegal, I don't think there's nothing there.
No, there is nothing illegal at all about anything in this process, and it's brilliant marketing.
Yeah.
And as I said, they've done what was done 30 years ago by the NFL and taken it to another level. And, in terms of the marketing, the publicity, what great publicity they had. I believe Rex posted the day they announced when the bounties all came out, how many people were coming into his store to buy those packs. Everybody wanted the lottery ticket.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. And I want to, and Orlando just brought up an interesting point. And I want to kind of address that in a different way. You're right, Orlando. It's a monopoly. But the leagues want it. The leagues and the players associate, the leagues especially, want to have a monopoly. I have a really good friend of mine. He had an NFL photo license 25, 30 years ago. And the NFL called him and says, we're not going to renew your license. And it's nothing bad that you've done. We are reducing our licenses from 300 to 30 because it's a lot easier to manage. And as a, so to speak, a private entity, they have the right to do that. Right. And even though they said, we love you, you pay your bills on time, he was an accountant. He had an accounting background. He always did perfect accounting. Everything was done to the T. They just go, you're one level below, and so we're just going to go with the bigger person. And there was no acrimony, nothing bad. It was a legitimate business decision to reduce the licenses they had from 300 to 30. A monopoly is well within the realm, especially the way Fanatics is doing, where they have buy-in from the players and the leagues. This is what they want to do. I'm not saying, again, this, and we can agree or disagree whether we like it in the hobby, but it is something consistent with what they want to do as a company.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but that's a great looking signature.
I agree. I think he did well. I mean, I think there was a video where they showed him actually signing that card before they,
I mean, that's a great looking signature.
I do see where it's like hitting the foil there.
Yeah, but that doesn't affect the signature.
I guess.
Remember, it's the autograph. You're not talking about what it's hitting. You're actually looking at, if you're an autograph grader, you're grading the autograph, not does it touch the
yeah.
If the autograph is a 10, it's a 10. Excuse me, but if the card is a 10, it's a 10. Now, I haven't seen anybody disagree that it's not a nice signature or that it's not a nice card. You're not seeing, oh, this is an 8 and an 8. You're not hearing that. And I mean, let's be honest. That's that's just a good looking signature.
I agree. It's not a scribble, as we call it on NASCAR radio, where they just kind of just put a little, whatever,
or two initials. Yeah.
A little slash on there, and they call that a signature. But yeah, I agree. That is a nice looking card. All right. So, I guess let's move on to our next subject, and it is PSA price increases and the backlog. PSA, I think on January 17th, raised their prices, and it's starting to get pretty hefty to grade a card these days. You don't want to grade any common cards. You're going to be grading some bigger cards. And I know for a fact, and I am pro PSA, got the hat.
Well, you're a PSA Hall of Famer. Come on.
This is true. But it's getting harder and harder for me to get cards graded. I'm actually living off their specials. I'm trying not to just send in cards at the regular prices. So what do you guys think about more price increases at PSA? I mean, I know they've got a lot of cards, and I guess a way to stem the orders coming in is to increase prices, and that'll slow it down, at least in theory.
Well, for me, as a PSA aficionado myself, I felt like the price increases were minimal. I think it was like $1 on the low end bulk, right? Where the big increase was on the high end stuff. I think that saw like $100 increase, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember right. But people who are really grading those types of cards don't have a problem paying the extra $100. But on the low end, again, I'm doing the same thing you are, Logan, and that's I'm living off the specials. On the grand scheme of things, it is making me, you know, think twice about sending in, lower end cards, and I think they've been trying to manage that for some time now. Um, there's a lot of debate on whether you should be sending in base cards. Well, I don't have a problem sending in a base rookie card, but maybe that a 2018 base card of Steph Curry might be a little. You got to think twice about making that move because um, you know secondary market prices on that. So you're just better off just buying that outright instead of sending one in because now the price it doesn't justify the means. So and I think as far as the backlog is concerned, I think they're making a good move as far as getting ahead of the curve, and they're trying to manage the amount of flow that's coming in. And I think that's a good thing, but I think they might have overbit on that. For I guess that GameStop thing is what's really causing this backlog. So they're gonna have to straighten this mess out. Hopefully sooner rather than later. I hear it's only supposed to be like 2 or 3 weeks. I wish Chris would have been here. He could have spoken on it, but um, yeah, we'll see what happens. I got my next batch ready to go, and I'm hoping that we clear this up quick.
Okay. I'm going to provide, again, a little different way of looking at it. I work for a company that when I started at ComC in 2017, it was $0.25 per card to send the card in. It's now 50 cents a card. We're still getting tons of cards in.
Yeah.
But we've had the same issues. There are issues. There's also, there are things we do to mitigate some of the costs on some of the things. We have things called fresh pulls. We have at shows sometimes there are discounts for select and elite processing. But one of the things that we were all running overtime when we were at $0.25 per card. We were just struggling to keep up with what we had. And that was 8 years ago, pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
We were getting very busy just even before the pandemic began. And price increases you have to run the numbers and see what works. And, I'm sure Tim, Julie, and the upper management at ComC run the numbers all the time. I guarantee you Nat Turner and the people at PSA run the numbers and see what's going to work. And if the numbers don't work after being implemented, then things will get adjusted again or specials will be run. So these are things companies have to do. I remember when I was at Beckett, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, and it was a big thing when Dr. Jim and the team raised the price of the magazine from $250 to $295, and he wasn't real happy about going from $250 to $295, but it was a necessary business move.
Sure.
I run a show for my synagogue. I always wanted to be $1 to get in the door. I wanted you to, and we always ran it. Hey, if you really want to come in, just come in. Come in. And now we're $2, and one of the reasons we're $2 is for various reasons. We have a security officer or a police officer at the show, and there's reasons both religious based and safety based to do that. Mm-hmm. And it frustrated me. The very first time we raised it from $1 to $2 was after a shoot. We didn't raise it the first show. We had a shooting at the Allen Outlet Mall like 2 weeks before the show. We agreed, it's probably a good idea to have increased security, have a police officer here. The police officer, it was approximately, I forgot if it was $50 or $55 an hour to have him there. We absorbed the cost because I wasn't going to raise a price 2 weeks before the show. I was going to honor whatever price I had posted. I'm not raising a price 2 weeks before the show to have people come in. A few people did help and did give us extra money towards that, and I'm very appreciative. But sometimes costs go up, and when costs go up, you have to figure out how to do things.
Orlando makes a great point. You know, there you go. There's your answer. SGC.
By the way, SGC, don't forget, is owned by PSA too.
Yeah, sure.
This is true. You know, I'm all in with PSA. I'm a set registry guy, so you know the only thing that I guess I probably don't like about these price increases is that it makes it hard for me to try to put any new sets on the set registry because there are common cards that are just not worth grading at that price. So it makes it tough. But I will say that PSA, they sent me a coupon code for a credit. I think it was $150 towards my order. This has been several months ago to help. It was a set registry thing where to help offset costs, you know, to get cards that, you know, common cards graded. So that was actually really nice. And I hope they do something like that again soon.
Thank you for posting that on X, by the way, because I took advantage of that special myself.
Yeah, because didn't you have to go back and look at your emails? And
yeah, I found it.
You got a code too. Yeah, that was very helpful. And
I thought it was a PSA Hall of Famer deal only.
No, it's for it was for everybody. Well, I don't know if it was for everybody, but it was for, I think, set registry members.
Set registry people, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and you know, talking about the backlog, I had some orders that took about a month between the time that they actually hit the PSA mothership and were actually put into the system. But then since then, like especially this week, I have seen a lot of movement. I've got like 4 orders, and man, they're just going bam, bam, bam. They're going from grading to encapsulation. They're, you know, to the QA. I mean, they're going quick. And I actually have one that's actually on its way back. So I think once they get into the system, I think maybe there could possibly be an issue with, you know, just the receiving side of the house because they're getting so many packages. But once they get into the system, they seem to be moving quite well, at least from you know, my vantage point. So I don't know about you, Victor. All right. So one more thing that I wanted to talk about. Let's see here. We got that. I do want to show something real quick. I didn't talk about this with you guys, but I've been getting a lot of mail lately. And there's some really good packaging things that I have seen that are people are making, and trust me, I'm not getting paid by anybody to talk about these things. But one of the things I saw was this shipping shield. You can put cards in here inside, and then you can seal the envelope. It's made by a company called Shipping Shield. You can go to shippingshieldus.com. But these are nice. They're very light, but these protect the cards. And I've gotten a couple of these in the mail like this. And I just thought it was really neat that people are making these kind of solutions to help the hobby.
You can put a top loader in that? Or what is that? Well, just a penny sleeve?
I think it's a top loader. Let me see if a top loader will fit in here. No, top loader, that'd be a penny sleeve.
A penny sleeve, okay.
So yeah, I guess if you're doing a plain wide envelope, you know, you can put that in here or that in the envelope.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so yeah, you can see it. It's made by Shipping Shield. And then something else I saw that somebody sent a card in. Actually, it was a graded card. It was sent in this box from No City Design, and this box opens up, and you can put a graded card in there. Let's see, I've got a graded card somewhere. We'll put the card in.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and what I think is good, and I actually ordered some of these, is you can put the graded card, as you can see, you put the graded card in there, and you can shut it, and then you can put it in a bubble mailer, and I think the card is going to make it to you just fine. In fact, that's how I got this box.
Huh.
So it's really, and these are things that I was totally unaware of until I actually received some in the mail. And like I said, I actually went and bought some of these. You can buy like, I think the minimum order is 25. So I bought like 25, and they were, you know, very, very inexpensive, really. But you can go to No City Design and find these. So I just thought that these were neat. I just wanted people to know about them. And if you need supplies to ship, because I know we got a lot of folks out here that ship a lot of cards, that this would be helpful. I mean, I know it's an additional expense, but I think it's worth it actually. What do you guys think about this kind of stuff?
I just ended up. I used to cut by hand now a couple of pieces of cardboard to kind of like sandwich the cards. I've since stopped doing that because it's time consuming, and I just didn't have the time to take on such a task. But I ended up going on Amazon and I found pre-cut pieces of cardboard already in like a bundle of like 100 for like $19.95, and I jumped all over it. And man, has that been? And they're perfectly machine cut, really nice. And it just saved a bunch of time. But this is like next level stuff now with the putting inside the little box and that. I still have to sandwich the cards and tape each side. So that still takes a little bit of time, but I'm just trying to get little things to save time when you're, listing and shipping and listing, as Bo would say. But yeah, I'm interested because I know Bo on his program, we've had the talks about, people leaving a negative feedback because you shipped the card in a what do they call that? Oh my goodness. Not a top loader, but the one, the
Card saver.
Card saver. Thank you,
You're
Rich.
right.
So there's been debates, right? Should I ship on a card saver or ship in a top loader? I ship in top loaders. But I have seen people get upset about you shipping their card in a card saver. I'm wondering how they would respond to that first one you showed.
And don't forget, they also get upset if there's painter's tape or something on the card loaders too to help keep the card in the holder. I mean, if somebody will find a complaint about everything.
Yeah. Does that have a little sticky tab on it, Logan?
It does not. You can just put a little piece of tape on there.
Okay.
But it kind of looks like it does, but it really doesn't.
Okay.
It tells you do not tuck that in because it could possibly damage the card.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
Honestly, all the cards I do, I haven't bought or sold mail order in so many years so I'm going to be honest, there's enough here in Dallas area where for me, this whole conversation is a little bit irrelevant, understanding that we're very lucky here, that I don't have to worry about stuff outside the area, so to speak.
Yeah. I like the fact that there's a lot of innovative people doing some innovative things in the hobby to actually help collectors. And like I said, these are a couple examples of these things. And again, I had no idea anything like this existed till I got it, and they were easy to find on the internet.
I'm going to check them out, Logan. Thank you.
Yeah, these boxes are great. I mean, I'm going to reuse this box that somebody sent me. And like I said, I bought a 25 pack of these. So when I don't ship a lot of stuff, but when I do, I'm definitely going to use this box with a bubble mailer. So
Abel wants to know if they're made from recycled materials.
Yeah, it doesn't say. I don't see the recycle symbol on any. I
love that question though.
Yeah. So the rainforest doesn't like this. Let's see. Bob Booten says he may have shipped cards in cereal boxes back in the early 2000s.
There you go. Yep.
Okay.
People are still doing that.
Well, we're approaching the top of the hour. I think that was a nice lighter touch to end on.
Yeah, I thought everybody would like that. Like I said, I kind of went crazy one night, Rich. I got on the internet and I was looking for funny name cards, and I found a bunch, and I ordered all of them, and some of them came in those boxes. So I thought it was really, really neat.
Well, I mean, I'm glad your sophomoric slabs collection is trucking right along.
It is. I've got a backlog, actually. I'm just trying to release 1 or 2 a week, but I've got a backlog of probably 30 that I've got. So I found a lot of funny names. So,
well, you probably have some names I have. I try to find you name. When I see an interesting name, I send them to you.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. And I got a lot of friends out there that are always sending me names and things. So it's very helpful. So that's really cool.
See, that way you're going to have the #1 registry of sophomoric slabs.
Yes, no doubt.
Okay, so let's close this down.
All right. Yeah. So let me say that I want to thank everybody for spending their Saturday morning with us. Next week, we will return with your favorite hobby hosts. So I'm not sure who is going to be on next weekend.
I know Dr. Jim's one of the three.
Dr. Jim? Well, that's a must watch for sure. So I do want to tell everybody happy collecting. Have a happy collecting weekend. If you're going to a show, that's great. I wish I was going to a show. I went to one last week. Always love going to those. And do you guys have any final parting words?
Hey, this was the only weekend in DFW without a card show. I'm glad I could be on today.
We're glad to have you, Rich.
Got to show Carter. They're going to get mad at us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that.
Ramirez.
I got no card to show, so the two of you show cards.
Okay, I'll show a card. What you got there, Victor? It's kind of hard to see.
Caitlin Clark, rookie, out of Monopoly. Awesome. Go ahead. That's all I got.
Okay. I've got this really cool Richard Petty Zebra PSA 10 card that I got in the mail the other day.
That is sharp.
I love that card. It's also a high number in this year's 2024 Select, which are very tough.
I mean, and I have a couple cards on my desk. This is one of the great photos.
Nice.
And the official card on my desk. And so forgive me, this is a little bit sexist, but she's beautiful.
On that note.
Yeah, on that note, I think I'm getting ready to play the outro real quick. So everybody have a great weekend. Glad you could make it, and we will see you guys later.